Hi, welcome back. Or if you're new here, hi, my name is Eric. I'm a first semester nursing student here at Johns Hopkins University. And today I'm going to talk about nursing a little bit more. And I'm just going to be answering some questions that I've gotten on social media ever since posting the vlogs. And I look really raggedy because I just got out of clinicals. So I'm trying to answer these questions as quickly as I can and then go back to sleep because 6 a.m. clinicals and then yeah, it's fun, but it's tiring. The first question is, why did you choose Johns Hopkins nursing program and what was so appealing about it? And honestly, I chose it because one, I went through the list of best entry-level Masters of Science in Nursing programs, and Hopkins was one of them. I think it was like number one at one point, and then it was like number two in like some worldwide list. So I went by that. I applied to like Hopkins and University of Pennsylvania, and I was like, hey, the worst they could say is no. And when I looked up some of the universities that were on that list, some of them didn't accept my prerequisites. My prerequisites timed out or expired. I'd have to retake them, or I'd have to take a GRE. So I was like, nah. UPenn and Hopkins were the only two that kind of accepted both of my prerequisites, and they were within the same time frame that I am allowed to take it, and my grades were satisfactory enough so that I can apply to those two programs. I applied to more schools, but basically I chose Hopkins because I saw it in a pretty cool list and I wanted to go to it when I was a senior in high school. But before I was like, they're not going to accept me. That's Hopkins. And then now it's like, the worst I can say is no, whatever. Just submit that application. It's fine. So that's how I chose it. And it was so appealing because every time you look at the research papers coming out and, about medicine and stuff like that, there's always something about like Johns Hopkins. So I thought that was really interesting and I wanted to do research in the future. So I was like, hey, might as well try this out. So the next one is, hey Eric, I came across your YouTube channel talking about Hopkins and I wanted to talk to you about your experience, how long is the program? So my experience so far has been pretty great. I got this question like in the beginning of my semester, so now I have a little bit more of a knowledge on my experience, but it has been tiring because it really is a very fast-paced program because it's like 20 months, 22 months, 5 semesters, 20 months. So I'm graduating next August. Because of the rigor and the time frame that we have, it's a lot of content and a lot of the materials that you learn on the lectures are kind of like self-paced. You can watch the lecture before your in-person virtual question and answer lecture. And I like that because I can take the time to watch the videos, but sometimes I get behind because I would be stuck studying for like pathophys or I'd be stuck studying for health assessment that I'd get behind like one lecture and then I would have to play catch up. In terms of clinicals, I love it because my clinical I was fortunate enough to have a clinical instructor that pushes me to like the limit. She knows that I want to be extra AF and she's extra AF. So she's like, hey, here's the procedure. Go to watch that procedure. Hey, they're doing this in that room. Go there. Hey, do vital signs. Hey, go ask that nurse if they need help. So it's really like the clinical is what you make of it. And luckily, me being extra AF and my instructor being extra AF, going the distance, we kind of just clicked. And now I feel a little bit more prepared than I did in the first clinical that I did. So now I feel a little bit more confident in the hospital setting, in the bedside. So it is a lot of growth in a short amount of time. And I've talked to a bunch of the nurses too, and even if you like graduate the program, you still wouldn't feel like super ready because you learn a lot on the job as well. So it's kind of a pretty cool way to get your foot in the door, but just remember that nursing is a lifelong learning, and the professors here and the instructors are really, really like very helpful. And even the administration, they're always like, hey, if you need any help, make sure to email us. We're here. And then when I email them, they get back to me in like a couple hours or like sometimes like 30 minutes. So I do feel very supported in that aspect. And they are really watching out for what I want to do and not just what they want to teach me. The question is, I know that Hopkins takes a holistic approach, but do you mind sharing your stats, professional/volunteer experience? If you could talk a little about your experience/writing experience for the essays. I know in one of your videos you said that you wrote a 60-page resume. How did you go about adding them in the experience section in NursingCAS? Thank you for your time. So this is a loaded question, so this might take a while to answer, but Hopkins does take a holistic approach based off when I went to their like info session. Every info session they made sure you knew that they look at more than just grades. Some schools that I applied to only looked at one essay and the rest were your grades. And I wasn't the best student. Let's talk about that. So she's asking for my stats. I had a 3.5 GPA on my undergrad, 3.49. I'm rounding up. It was 3.49. I'm lying to y'all. And I think my science GPA was a little bit lower than that. I think it was like a 3.3, 3.2. It was lower than 3.5, definitely, because my scores for some of the science classes weren't as good. So I really liked how Hopkins did do a holistic approach, because if people were just to look at me on paper, I'm not a fit enough candidate. As you can see, I was rejected to like the rest of the schools that I applied to. So just by numbers, period, it would have been very hard for me to get into a program. In terms of experience, I was a professional personal trainer for about a couple of years. After I graduated college, I went to work for a gym right away. I had my degree in kinesiology, and all I really did was work with people who had like movement deficiencies. And my background is all in fitness and personal training. So now we're talking about the volunteer experience. I don't have clinical volunteer experience. What do you mean? Yeah, so I don't have clinical volunteer experience because most of my professional like backgrounds is on personal training. So I basically worked in gyms, shadowed some physical therapists. So I mainly worked with older adults as part of my internship in my undergrad. So a lot of that kind of helped me with my application. So not having clinical experience kind of hurt me in some of the schools, but it didn't hurt me that much in Hopkins. I really was afraid that none of the schools would accept me because it was so hard to get clinical experience at one point because I started applying during COVID. So I can't volunteer at hospitals. I tried to get my CNA license and then I caught COVID. Surprisingly, it wasn't like, it wasn't like I wasn't trying to. It was just, I just didn't have it. And I wasn't thinking about it. I really just was like, I'm just going to apply. If they reject me, I'll apply again when I get more experience. But I was really impatient too. So that's that. And thinking/writing experience for the essays. There was an event that happened in my family where, I realized that I want to go into nursing. Got to see nurses in action taking care of my grandma. And that kind of whole experience showed me that I want to go back into the nursing profession because I was like, I'm Filipino. So Filipinos, typically half my families are nurses. So I don't want to do that at first, but when I saw that experience with my grandma, like being in the hospital, having her be taken care of by these nurses in the emergency room, I was like, oh, this is actually really interesting. This feels like there's more to nursing than bedside. So I looked up, nursing theories, and I looked up like what nurses can actually do. And I thought, hey, this is something that I like more because when I'm training clients, I look at like their mental health, their recovery and stuff like that. And there's an increase in mental healthcare as well. So now that I saw that, I was like, oh, I can get into this and like start, bring my personal training background into nursing and then build up on, mental health nursing care practice. So when I went about writing it, I talked about wanting to do research in mental health nursing. I talked about my experience with my grandma and how I was able to understand that there are more avenues in nursing than the bedside that I can go into in the future. I talked about wanting to teach because I'm always about giving back to any institution that like raises me basically. And I love teaching people. I love helping people out, and I love these videos. I love reaching out and connecting with people. So I talked about all of that, and I think the creme de la creme of my essay, I remember saying this, is one day I want a theory named after me. Yeah, it's very like egocentric to think about, but at the end of the day, my reasoning for that goal is because I really want to be able to figure out how we can make mental health care in the United States better, how we can make it more accessible for people, how we can enable people to not talk about it and feel like they're stigmatized. So starting off in the bedside is great, but there's more that I want to do as well. But also, you've got to be genuine to what you want to do and what you experienced and what your why you're going into nursing. Like literally, genuine conversation in these essays, you only get so much. So there's no need to like fake it. There's no need to try to think about, oh, what would impress them. Just be you. Because like if they read your genuine essay and say, hey, this person doesn't seem like they're going to fit our mission or vision, then do you really want to be in that institution, right? So if you write this essay thinking like, oh, I want to impress these people, rather than I'm going to share with them what I'm about, who I am, why I want to become a nurse. If you go about it that way, who you are, why you want to be a nurse, and what you're about, I guarantee you'll be having an easier and more fun time writing the essay than just stressing about like what the admissions committee is looking for. And I know in one of your videos you said you wrote a 60-page resume. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go into that in a little bit, so I'll have that probably at the end. I'll pull up NursingCAS, and I'll show you guys what I meant by a 60-page resume. Next one is, hey Eric, there's like two questions left. Hey, I'm currently applying for Hopkins, and I came across your channel. Some question about application. How do you like living in Baltimore compared to California? If it's not too much, do you mind sharing your stats, tips, and oh yeah, I already did that. Stats, tips, and personal statement application process on the next YouTube video. Yeah, that's the YouTube video here. Hey. So how do I like living in Baltimore compared to California? So I always wanted to live in some sort of high rise. And I found a place that was a high rise that was affordable with my loans. So I actually really like living in Baltimore. Some people don't like it because it's cold and it's gloomy. I love it. Like when it was cold and gloomy, yeah, there was like, oh my God, where's the sun? I need some sun. But I actually like having a change of pace and having a change of location every now and then. Like I'm the type of person that loves to go on adventures in different locations. So I really do love it. And California, I've been in California basically my whole life. All I gotta say is I feel like East Coast people are more straightforward, and California people are kind of like more flat, blasé, laid back. So I feel like I'm getting a mix of both. And a lot of my cohort friends are from California or Oregon or the West Coast. So, most of us are pretty chill. Like living in Baltimore isn't that bad. Some people really will try to scare you that Baltimore is scary, and of course there's crime everywhere. There's like police sirens everywhere. It's normal. It's not like how bad some people try to make it out to be. They're literally just trying to scare you. Like if you're trying to go to Baltimore, you do get to understand why there is the type of culture that there is here. And as a nurse at Hopkins, as a student at Hopkins, once you understand that, you're able to take care of your patients a lot better, because you have to understand the community and the city that you're in. So I love Baltimore, but also like there's some things that, can be better, and it's different from California because California is very like, fun in the sun 25/8, while Baltimore is like really cold sometimes and then really hot on other days. So it's a good transition. If you have any more questions about Baltimore, I haven't gotten to explore that much because I've been stuck inside studying. So yeah, but so far I'm really loving it, and I'm in a 27-30 floor apartment complex, and I have like a really nice view of Baltimore, downtown Baltimore. So I really, really do like that part. I think this is the last question before I go to the next part of this, is how many people were admitted are in your cohort? I think there's like 100 something of us. I think. Can't keep up, but there's about 100 something, or maybe less, but I feel like there's about 100. So they do accept a good amount of people. And their acceptance rate, I think when I looked it up before, I think I forgot. It wasn't that high, but if they take 100 people, that's a good amount of people yet, And I'm aware that JHU is going to be tad expensive. Are you currently working or wanting to start working a job outside of school and clinicals, or does your approved loans cover the cost for everything, including food, bills, transportation fees, etc.? So it should cover, my loans should cover most of my expenses, but there's some things that my mom, still helps me out with. So I'm very blessed to have like a mom that like supports me throughout my whole education. And yes, I am planning to do my externship, clinical externship, once I finish this semester, so I'm getting my CNA license and doing some sort of like extern work somewhere. I don't know if they pay. If some of them pay, cool. If they don't, it's for experience. But I'm looking for something that would be paying me as a CNA or an extern in their unit. So yeah, those were the questions, and we're 20 minutes in. Oh my God. Okay, let's log into NursingCAS. The question that I'm answering now is the NursingCAS one. I know in one of your videos you said that you wrote a 60-page resume. It wasn't a 60-page resume. How did you go about adding them in the experience section on NursingCAS? Okay, so let's go about that. So let's look up here. So this is like for MSN entry into nursing. This is the NursingCAS. Let me move myself. You don't care about seeing my face. You care about seeing. I don't even know if you care about this part, but you can upload your resume, right? But also you can upload other. So the reason why I smile at that is because somebody asked in one of the nursing meetings, they were like, hey, if we don't have any clinical experience, what else can we do to stand out? And I'm like, just show us what you got. Show us what you're about. So my resume, I pull up my resume. It's just a one-page resume. I had to screenshot it to block out my cell phone number, but essentially this is what I have. So I put up my education, I put in my highlights, like what did I do as a personal trainer, and I put in my certifications as a personal trainer. I put in the skills that I believe I had as a personal trainer and like other things. Relevant coursework, memberships. So this is just my fitness resume. So I didn't do anything special to like put it into a nursing resume except for adding in service to health there. So I had more experience here, but these were the main experience that I really do believe were very helpful in my growth. That's kind of like one of the stats that I put in there. And then let's pull up the certifications. So they said, show us what you're about, show us who you are. I'm not going to scroll down because it shows my certifications and it shows my numbers, my certification numbers, and I think that's going to dox me. So I have my first aid, CPR, AED, and my BLS. So I got my BLS around the time where I was trying to be a CNA. BLS is what you use for nursing school. I had my certified personal training certificate, my corrective exercise specialist, weight loss specialist, and functional movement system certificate. So I had 5 certificates on this slide that I put on so that they know that I'm not lying about my certifications on my resume. So they're like, oh, this dude does corrective exercise. Cool. Probably an ortho nurse. Or this dude has his BLS. This dude's probably serious about becoming a nurse because they have a BLS and they know what a BLS is. So I told you I didn't have my clinical volunteer experience, but I'm making it work to my advantage because I'm showing them what I'm about. And this is the page that took half of my application. And so because I was a personal trainer, all I did was program prescription, right? Creating programs. And what do nurses do? Nurses create care plans. Care plans, exercise prescription. There we go. Figure out what's wrong with the patient, figure out what's wrong with the client and what they need. There we go. So I put that together and, I essentially told them about it. And essentially, this is the first page. So in the following pages, I have provided sample exercise program prescription that I perform on every client that I encounter. I did do exercise programming for every client that I encountered in my undergrad and my job. So I was really well versed in doing this. So let me show y'all just the pages. This is a 22 page. So this is like his training programs. I think this is week 1, samples like week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5 with variations. This is like his stats and then the rationale behind why I would do the stats that I did, the rationale on why I would created the program that I did. So it's very like scientific based, and I really wanted to show them that even though I don't have experience in the hospital or skilled nursing facility, I had some experience working with people. I had some experience giving people advice on how to become healthier, and how to intervene when I see movement imbalances that I saw within my client population. All right, so let's go on to the presentation samples. This is the very last one. So she said I said 60 in the video, and I probably did because I was exaggerating, but it was basically like a really long resume. So let's go on to the last one, which is the exercise prescription. In my undergrad, I was part of a service organization that does community service, but we also did leadership. So I taught leadership skills, and I also taught some personal training classes for my internships. So personal training workshops for my internships in my undergrad. So I said, I have presentations. I gotta show that off. So the first one that I did was a goal setting presentation. Oh wow, I have a goal setting presentation. Cool, I know how to set goals. And as a nurse, you really need to know how to set goals for your clients, because if you don't know what you want them to achieve by the end of their stay, what are you doing and what are you working towards for, right? So goal setting, cool. The next one I showed them was a pamphlet that I've created for a exercise prescription for a pregnant client, right? And last one is a medicine ball training pamphlet that I had, and a presentation that came with it with references and research that I had with the presentation. So they know I know how to do research, and they know I know how to do like scientifically backed like presentations. You'd think that this required documents, you'd think that this documents part was just one question or one document that's required and others are optional. I really milked this part because I didn't have the clinical experience, and I knew I didn't have the grades to back my stuff up, but I knew I had the experience to actually know that I am passionate about this. I am like competent enough to be in this program, and I will get better as you teach me. So that's what I did. So yeah, that's what I did in my application process. It was a lot of me just putting documents together to show them who I am, because like someone said, Hopkins always says it's a holistic approach to getting nursing students. And I knew I didn't have the clinical experience. I knew I didn't have the background. I had so many things I thought was working against me, but I leveraged all of my strengths. I leveraged all of my background experiences for my advantage, and just show them what I can do and show them what I have done already, right? So having kind of that in my back pocket, I think really did help me get in, because sometimes I'm still here and I'm like, some of y'all are super smart and some of y'all are trying really hard. What am I doing here? But it's always kind of like that imposter syndrome going in. But if y'all have any more questions moving forward with your application process, if you see this like 2 semesters, 3 semesters, 4 semesters from now, let me know in the comments below or hit me up on social media. My social media will be down everywhere. I'm pretty much open to conversing, talking about just nursing school and my experience so far, because it's fun. I love helping people get to where they want to be, and I love helping y'all with my experience so that you don't do what I messed up on, and I share my like trials and tribulations with y'all when I did my application. So yeah, I'll talk to y'all soon. I gotta edit this before I go take my post-clinical nap, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.